Hello and welcome. It is Wednesday, February 19th, 2025, and we are gonna slow your roll once again. With the NFL season being over, we'll have, some off-season talk going around this time. Actually, I didn't even think I said our names. Jesse Caulfield, writer for the Arco Report. That is Dominic Lorenzano, local broadcaster. And, we're gonna get right into it with, we'll have some baseball talk with the drama on Raffy Devers in third base. We'll go, like I said, there'll be some football with Aaron Rodgers, and the Jets rejected him. What is his future? Does he have a future in the NFL? Some Matt Stafford. What is his future in the NFL? There was a hockey game that no one can stop talking about. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, along a little bit more baseball, a little bit more football, the usual.
Indeed.
But Dom.
Yes.
Let's get it going.
Yeah,
let's get it rolling.
Start it with some NBA, which we don't talk NBA a lot. But you know what? I want to congratulate Adam Silver, who has not been a very good commissioner of the NBA, probably the worst one, at least the last couple of years. But I think he had his coup de grace, his shining moment as a commissioner in executing that Luka Doncic trade to the Lakers. Because you cannot convince me that something shady didn't happen behind closed doors. So as the sport is getting criticized more than it's ever been criticized before, and by the way, sports media is usually the biggest Praetorian guard for the NBA. They defend it, they coddle it, and yet you had major NBA media pundits talking about how bad the product had gotten and the fact that the NBA might have to make changes. Been criticized like never before, the ratings continuing to drop, and then all of a sudden, the biggest international superstar gets traded in the middle of the night, out of nowhere, to the biggest brand in the sport. And remember that the Dallas Mavs just had an ownership change just last year when Mark Cuban sold the team. And by the way, you should go look at the press conference that the owner gave after the trade. He starts talking about, work ethic, and we care about this and that. And in the same breath as work ethic and keeping yourself in great shape, he referenced Shaquille O'Neal, who was moved out of LA by Kobe Bryant because he was kind of a goofball. Like, he sounded like a plant. He kind of did. And I'm not saying he was a full-on plant, but you can't convince me that some shady crap did not happen behind closed doors. It's just too convenient. And this is the NBA, where it's all about the superstar, where you have to put up with some nonsense because there's not enough players on the planet that can do the things that the best players can do in the NBA, and you only got 5 guys on the floor at once. To trade him for not nearly enough, everyone around the league, the consensus, you can't find a single person saying the Mavs got enough in this trade. I'm sorry, you cannot convince me that something shady didn't happen behind closed doors. And you know what? I would care in another sport, but the NBA might be a little desperate right now. They're a little annoying anyway, and I'm going to say Adam Silver, you know what? This was your crown jewel, your shining achievement on what has been mostly a horrendous tenure as the commissioner of this sport that has seen the decline in popularity, pretty much almost on a steady decline the last couple of years since you've taken the helm. But good job on you. But again, you can't pull the wool over my eyes. You cannot, and I'm not a big conspiracy theorist, not in sports either, but you cannot convince me that something shady didn't happen behind closed doors on this one. I just don't buy it.
Nikola Jokic is the biggest international superstar in the NBA.
Debatable. Luka's gotten pretty big. Jokic got big first, but Luka got real big.
No, Luka,
I'm sorry. So if he's not first, he's second.
No, Luka got big first, and then the past couple of years, I've heard nothing but Jokic.
Okay. I don't think people watch Jokic, though, that much.
People don't watch the Dallas Mavericks either.
They watch Luka. I mean, listen, no one watches the regular season at all. That's sort of the point.
Sure, yes. No one.
But I guarantee the ratings have gone up, particularly for Laker games, of course.
That's probably one of the teams that actually was steady.
Yeah.
Because LA loves basketball. California loves basketball. People will watch LeBron for the most part. I said this immediately. I was like, there's no way Like, this doesn't make any sense. Because, I know Anthony Davis is old and falling apart and hasn't been relevant since the bubble. And Luka just took that team to the finals last year.
Yes, he did.
So, maybe he's a little bit of a cancer in the locker room. Maybe he's fat. But he's available.
He's also injured too, so
Well, he's certainly more available than Anthony Davis ever will be.
Yeah, right.
So if he's fat on the court, at least he's on the court. But it just didn't make any sense. No one was talking NBA about anything, and then suddenly one night everyone's talking about the NBA. That was just very suspicious. I didn't even care about all this. All these other things I could point to. It's the only thing I'm going to point to is that trade was outside looking in. I don't know NBA. I don't know basketball.
Yeah, you never heard a rumor though.
It's not even that.
It was never discussed.
It's not even that. It's just because these can come as a shock. That's fine. It's just that as someone who doesn't know basketball, I know that trade is horrible for the Dallas Mavericks, short and long term. It does nothing for them to help them to get them anywhere at any time. It's not even we got a bunch of draft picks. No. You got an aging dead man.
An aging former superstar.
Yeah. But then suddenly everyone's talking basketball. Yeah. That's all that was suspicious to me. It's this really came at a strange time, shocking to everyone involved, including Anthony Davis and Luka Doncic, which again, players can be shocked by trades. The news can be shocked by trades. Teams can go under the radar, not leak anything. That can happen. It's possible. But it's just so terrible of a trade and such a strange time in the NBA that I immediately was there's no way. That's fake.
So the only reason I took a step back and took a little while was because in the NBA, even if an owner doesn't want to do something and even if it's bad for the team, the players can just absolutely hold an organization hostage more than they can in any sport. So I was reserving judgment. I was going to let it all bake. I would see what happened. But then I saw the owner's press conference and I thought about it. And I was like, well, this is only a year after Mark Cuban sold the team to some very non-well-known people owning the team. And I was just like, this is weird. It just got weird. And the fact that as the days went by, there was nothing confirming to me that seemed that Luka had demanded the trade. From all standpoints, it seemed like Luka was surprised by it. So I was like, all right, I don't like getting tinfoil hat, but I just don't buy this. I don't buy that. That's something, some sort of deal. Some palms were greased behind closed doors to have this thing happen. I just don't buy it.
Dallas has probably promised that they'll get a great draft pick in the lottery.
I don't know what it is. I have no idea. Maybe they literally just paid the owner extra money and just didn't tell anyone. I have no idea. But
because that doesn't. I understand we live in an age where actually everyone sucks at business, and no one has long-term thinking. But that doesn't make any sense to me. You're going to take a paycheck up front and possibly ruin your franchise.
No, but maybe he was a plant from the start.
Why?
I don't know. I don't have an answer for you.
At that point, you will only lose money. You're not going to make any money off that team.
I don't know. Maybe it's like a, I'm sure they do revenue sharing.
And if
maybe it's I'll promise you a little bit more money in the TV revenue deal. I have no idea.
I don't know if they do, but even still, why would the rest of the people agree to that? You're going to ruin a franchise, which will drag down our revenue share because no one's going to buy that product. No one will watch that product. No one will go to those games. That doesn't make sense. Unless, again, the Dallas Mavericks organization was promised, we will pick you up in the long term. Because that's
something. It's got to be something.
Because there's me, not a business person, immediately thinks that would be a terrible investment. I mean, it is. Just you're trading your star player for
nothing,
for dirt. That is just a terrible investment. So they had to have been probably for the next 2 seasons, you will be top 3 in the lottery. But we can't do one. probably 2-2 because that's suspicious.
I don't know.
Now we're all suspicious, so you might as well just do the 1-1.
You might as well. But yeah, you can't convince me that something didn't go on behind closed doors for this one. It was just, like I said, the NBA had reached a new level of getting criticized by people who are usually just Praetorian guards for them, just defending them at every turn. And people literally talking about how they need to change rules to make the product better on television. And then all of a sudden, Luka's going to the biggest brand in the sport. Like, come on.
Well, it's also a team that needs, the Lakers need a bit of saving too.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Like we need to make sure they're in the playoffs.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. Not only
they'll
that,
win a round.
If you were the commissioner of the sport and all the owners had got together and everyone who invests in the sport got together and they were like, listen, you have a major problem on your hands. We don't care about competition. We don't care about anything. What do we need to do to fix this? You would instantly say, well, the biggest brand in the sport is not doing well right now. If I have to throw a lifeline to anything to get ratings up, I'm going to throw a lifeline to the Lakers. It's not, you couldn't make the argument that there would be any other team, any other decision made if you were going to help one team. Of course it's the Lakers. No one else is even close to their popularity. Even the Celtics aren't.
I would have been smarter about it.
People hate the Celtics.
Yes, they do.
People don't hate the Lakers for some reason.
But the Celtics
hate the Lakers. Celtics fans hate the Lakers.
Yes.
But that's kind of it.
Yeah. Generally.
It's kind of a weird thing, though, right? Because
I bet Clippers fans hate the Lakers.
That's true, but there's like 5 of them, so it's whatever. But usually, the biggest brand, the biggest dynasty, the whatever in sport usually gets hate. Like people do hate the Yankees all across.
Yes.
You know, people are starting to hate the Dodgers. I feel like no one really hates the Lakers for some reason, except again, Celtics fans.
Well, but everyone hates the Celtics.
Yes, everyone hates the Celtics.
Because realistically, actually, I mean, you know, I know they have basically the same amount of championships. Celtics just got one ahead. But like, I mean, realistically, historically, you know, a lot of those were in Minnesota, not LA's. I realize it's the same franchise. But, you know, and people like crap on the Celtics because like, oh, a lot of those were old. What have you done for me lately type of thing. Meanwhile, the Lakers have, in the 21st century, have had Shaq, Kobe, now LeBron. Like, those are the people that everyone loves. At least basketball fans love.
Yes. But I can't convince me. Something went down. Something shady went down behind closed doors.
Yeah. I would have been smarter about it if you were going to do the shady thing. Trade him to the Knicks. Because like people are going to watch LA, and they will cheat to get LA in the playoffs. Like you don't have to worry about that. And they'll probably cheat to get them in the second round too. Like they can do that, and everyone knows they'll do that. So everyone just be like, there they go again, and keep watching.
The problem with that though is even with Luka on the Knicks, I don't think the league probably sat there and said they're going to beat the Celtics in the playoffs.
It's not about
Where now it's like, come on, like most people think the Lakers are making the finals, which again that's what they want.
I don't know. Who's
Adam
good.
Silver is. You can't convince me that they are not going to do everything in their power to make it a Lakers Celtics finals.
Maybe because that'll actually make them a buck.
That'll make them a lot of money. Hell, I might watch it just cause.
I mean, if the Celtics are there, I'll watch it.
I mean, I watched the games. I more had to work for most of them, so I was watching them anyway. But I don't think on my days off, I still put it on.
I mean, if Celtics in the championship, I will put it on.
I'll put it on.
No matter who they
I'll
play.
put it on near the end when they're about to win the championship. I don't know if I'm going to watch game 1 to the end.
Even if it's a bad opponent.
Okay.
That's not interesting. I watched every game against the Mavericks.
Did you?
I did.
Okay.
Not intently necessarily.
Okay, I watched every game, but I didn't turn it on at the beginning and watch beginning to end.
I don't remember when exactly I turned them on. For the most part in the beginning. Maybe I missed the first couple. Maybe I missed like the whatever, jump ball.
But anyway, all right, we can move on to some baseball talk. Jesse, we just got Bregman, and the season hasn't even started yet.
Yeah.
First game is tomorrow.
Yeah.
Cubs and Dodgers. But there's already some trouble brewing in that Red Sox clubhouse.
Yeah.
So get us started, Yaki Way report writer.
Yeah. So the young Raffy Devers has made his opinion known about the Bregman signing. Now, he didn't say anything necessarily about Bregman.
Yeah, no.
He didn't say like, oh, dude, you brought in an Astro. That guy's a cheater. No. It's just about like, you know, Bregman played third. He was good at it.
Yeah.
Raffy Devers plays third. He's
not good at it.
He's not good at it. But what did he say? Or what did his translator say? Raffy Devers, here's some of the quotes. This is a business. I always knew it. Everybody's going to look at their benefit, but for me, they're not doing it the right way. And he went on to say some more. I was surprised when they asked me to DH. I believed in their word, but apparently they don't have one. That one makes me laugh.
I know.
So I guess they gave him their word that he won't be moved off third for Bregman.
No. They gave him their word when he signed the contract. It had nothing to do with this. Was separate from Bregman.
So like when he signed his contract the year prior,
yes,
you'll be a third baseman.
Yes. Which is what Cora's point was.
Which, here's the thing. Most of what I've seen, and, in the little practice he's had, Bregman has been in the middle infield, learning second base, doing a little bit of shortstop, but mostly second base. But I don't know the phenomenon. Maybe we should get a word for it or a phrase of why do terrible fielding baseball players insist on just staying at their position. And while Raffy has progressed, he's gotten better as he's aged. Mm-hmm. He couldn't have gotten much worse. And he's still at one of the worst in the league. He's at the bottom of the league. Mm-hmm. But he insists on staying in his position. And I get some guys that you can't really actually move them around. Gavin Lux last year, for some reason he played short very well. He can't do the opposite side at second base. And it also affects his hitting. Some guys, when they're so focused on trying to learn a new position, they really falter at the plate.
Yeah.
Too much on their plate. They, pun intended, I guess. Mm-hmm. Too much on their plate, and they can't focus. So I get that stuff. But it's either you're going to play third, your natural position, Raffy, or you're just going to DH, and you're not going to be in the field at all, and you just have to focus on hitting. I don't know why he insists on being a liability in the field. Does he want to feel important? Does he want to contribute to the team? Does he probably want to feel like he is a large part of the team and is not getting any of his time reduced? Yeah, probably. But you are the highest paid player on the team. You are the face of this franchise, whether you actually like it or not. You're not going anywhere, kid. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's worried about that. But I also don't understand why he wants to be in the field so bad. You suck.
I don't
it's not making you got your contract. It's not making you any more money.
I don't understand it. I truly don't. It's weird. And yes, he's made some improvements, but he is still ranked dead last at his position in defensive rankings 7 of his 8 seasons. He's still at the very bottom no matter what. And you're 8 seasons in. There's not going to be a ton of improvement anywhere.
Yeah.
And you already got your contract. So it's not even, I can't even sit here and be like, well, he's bitching because he, if he's a DH, it affects how much money he'll get on negotiating. No, you already got paid. And, I thought it was funny because Cora has usually been a Raffy defender, and Cora just kind of went off. Without going off, but pretty pointed. Well, there's new management here. Because Heimblum's the one who gave him that contract.
Yeah.
Heimblum's not in the building anymore. And, I heard WEI was talking. They said, it was kind of a spineless comment by Cora because other than Bloom, Cora's still here. The ownership's still here. So pretty much everyone who made those promises to him is still here. I don't care. This is a results-based business, and you already got paid a large contract. Get better, or we're going to have to make changes. It's about winning. And you told everyone that you wanted to win. That's what you were mad about, why they didn't get Xander. One, I felt like they're disrespecting him, but also, I want to win. Okay, so if you want to win, you are once again near the bottom or dead last in your position when it comes to fielding. Mm-hmm. We can make improvements there and keep your bat in the lineup. I don't even know what to make of it.
I kind of feel Raffy.
And I also thought it was completely ridiculous to say because we hadn't even said that Bregman was going to play third yet. When they got Bregman, I told you I think he's playing second.
Everyone seems to think he's playing second.
Until we trade Yoshida or Abreu, I think Bregman's playing second. Because you're not going to pay Yoshida the money that you're paying him and just not have him be a bench player. And you're not going to not want Abreu's bat in the lineup because he's young and he's been pretty productive offensively. So the only other solution is having Alex at second. where you don't have anybody to play anyway.
I think this is years of Raffy being kind of annoyed and disgruntled with the front office and the personnel they brought in. I think it's not really about the position. I think he's just kind of annoyed and getting pissed at everything, and he's making problems. They didn't sign his best friend in Xander Bogaerts and kind of slapped him on the face on his way out. They didn't really even try with Mookie Betts and just traded him away. And while I don't really blame actually the Red Sox that much for that, I bet in Raffy's eyes he's like, that was again my friend, and you didn't try hard enough, in my opinion. Nathan Eovaldi was beloved in that locker room. Didn't even give him an offer. Just let him walk. I don't know. I was fine to let JD Martinez go. I know he was well liked in that locker room. I don't know how Raffy felt about him, but he seems to like these guys. Plawecki, not a guy I'm going to go to bat for, but was beloved in that locker room. And I said, when they just basically kicked him out, I said, we don't need you for the last month of the season. Everyone was mad.
Yeah.
I think this is Raffy being like, you have spit in the faces of all my friends. You've offered no contracts to all the people that are beloved by the fans and that have contributed to that 2018 team. And now I'm stuck here with a bunch of kids that I'm supposed to teach, even though I'm 27 or however old he is right now. And I don't like that.
Well, you know what? But now they have Bregman. So Raffy doesn't even have to be the leader of the team if he doesn't want to be. Because Bregman's been there and done that. Bregman's older than him. Bregman's been in the playoffs multiple times.
I don't think Raffy sees it that way.
I think he's being a whiny little, what.
Yes. I don't disagree with that.
I can't come to bat for him on this one. And it's not like I'm some friend of Red Sox ownership over the past 5 years.
I'm not going to defend Raffy.
He's being a whiner in this way. You got your contract. Shut up.
Yeah. I mean, kind of.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is.
The first quote I read was that you seem to understand it's a business.
They're in the business of winning again, and you suck at playing your position defensively. There's nothing else to it. And I thought I thought it was eye-opening that Cora, who historically has always defended Raffy, just completely torched him. So.
And they gave you 8 years to learn that position.
Exactly.
And
Red Sox fans been screaming to take you out of there for 5 years now. And they gave you plenty of time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything left to learn. You either have it or you don't.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, I'm improved. It's like, yes, you went from the worst ever to just, garden variety bad. But whatever. All right. Another big name who doesn't have a contract, or at least was offered a contract, I believe, and said no, is Vladimir Guerrero of the Jays. You probably have more information on this, so I'm going to let you start on this one too. But
well, it's not even necessarily there's a lot of information. It's more like, what does it mean? Because, from the Vlad perspective, I found it very odd that his contract deadline was yesterday, the very start of spring training. Normally, they're like, the last day of spring training, opening day, the opening day eve, that type of stuff. Those are always the deadlines. That was Xander's deadline. That was Aaron Judge's deadline. Pretty much always the deadline. It's so odd to me that he put it at the beginning of spring training. Because to me that says, I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
And what does that mean for Vlad? It means he's going to, at the very least, test free agency. But I think he doesn't want to be in Canada because no one wants to be in Canada. No one wants to play for the Toronto Blue Jays. And Vlad sees that. The one signing they have this offseason, despite the fact that they have been in on everybody, is Anthony Santander. And that is, that's nice. 30 home runs, 100 RBI potential. But if you asked a random baseball fan on the street, I bet a lot of them don't know who that is.
No.
Yeah. He's an Oriole.
You might
You
might have an unfair advantage here in Boston if you ask people on the street because at least he plays in the same division as the Sox.
Sure. So I meant kind of an average Joe. If you took just the most average baseball fan across the country, they might not know who that is. So I understand from pretty much any player's perspective, if from the Toronto Blue Jays, it's no one wants to be here, and there's many reasons why. It's it's not Boston.
And some of them
LA,
New York. Are out of their control.
Sure. Well, yeah, more and more players are thinking about the taxes and their income, and Canada is very high. But it's not even like LA. We're like, all right, the taxes are offset by the fact that this is one of the biggest cities in the world.
It's the
mecca of
entertainment capital of the world. Like the money that you can make because you play in Los Angeles and have access to Hollywood and Silicon Valley's in the same state at least. You know what I mean?
Also, LA means either the Dodgers or even the Angels, which is, historically maybe more famous and watched at least. Or New York, again, higher taxes, but offset by the fact that financial capital of the world. You'll play for the Mets or the Yankees. That's a lot of publicity.
Yeah.
Even Boston.
Yeah, it's the taxes without the upside. That's really what it comes down to.
And it's not a sexy franchise.
They've underachieved the last 3 years.
Yeah, it's not a hugely passionate fan. I mean, they're pretty passionate. They can show up. I've seen them. I've seen Toronto fans show up for the Blue Jays. But in general, if we're going to talk like top 10 fan bases, no, they don't crack that list. Sorry. So, like, what does Toronto have going for them? Actually, what does Toronto have going for them? They have Vlad Guerrero Jr. currently on the team, but he's on his way out and everyone knows it. So they have nothing going for them.
Yeah, they really don't. They're in a tough position. And again, it's not even all their fault. But yeah, I do think Vladdy will be gone.
What is the future of the Toronto Blue Jays?
I probably think he ends up getting moved this year.
That's what I would do if I was them.
Now, it's probably going to be at the trade deadline. They'll probably play this out because I know Toronto still thinks they can win and is trying to win. And I don't necessarily think that's the wrong idea. I think you should play this out as long as you can. But I would imagine, I would bet that they are probably going to trade him at the trade deadline because I don't think the pitching is deep enough. Bo Bichette, he really had a bad year last year. So you got to be concerned about that. The Sox have gotten better. The Yankees are still the Yankees. Baltimore has taken a step back, and that is true. But there's no one in that division that's just awful that you can beat up on. The Rays took a major step back last year, but they're still not terrible. By no means are they the White Sox or anything like that.
And you know what? That franchise is just so smart. They find ways.
Yeah, they figure it out. Yeah. They figure out ways to be competitive. So I just don't see Toronto getting a whole lot better this year, and I think they'll probably be in the same position as they were last year at the trade deadline, which is they're out of it. The only difference is they know Vladdy's not coming back, and it's another year of underachieving, and therefore they will probably pull the trigger on selling some of these guys this year. I think inevitably that's where this ends. I know there's been a lot of talk that Vladdy wants to play here. I would love that. I don't think he wants to play with the Yankees. I've heard that multiple times.
I've heard he's like not quite as hardcore as Ken Griffey Jr. about it.
No.
He's like, I don't like that franchise.
Yeah, no. But I certainly think that he will be moved at the deadline. Maybe probably the biggest splash that'll be made at the deadline. We'll have to see. But I think inevitably that's where this ends.
Yeah. That's. But I'm curious. Like, what does the Toronto Blue Jays franchise even do?
Well, you just try and do what you did for this core:
draft and develop.
I mean, they made themselves competitive for a little bit. They underachieved at the end of the day, but they've made money and they've had some success, however fleeting it was, with the core that they had. Now, Cavan didn't really work out, but they had Bo Bichette and they had Vladdy, and they had Teoscar for a short amount of time, too. There wasn't a ton of overlap with each other, but I'm pretty sure Hernandez was at least there for 1 year of either Vlad or Bo. So you just go back to what got you here in the first place. Just draft and develop. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is you're going to have to trade some of these guys now. So.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious. Without, he's been kind of classy about it. He hasn't straight up said, I don't want to be a Toronto Blue Jay. But how can you not see the writing on the wall of, we don't have a future with this guy. Let's get some value out of him.
Yeah.
And you know what? If you're leading the division and you want to buy at the deadline and make it worth it by getting possibly one championship with him, I guess. I just don't see the roster being that good.
Yeah, I just don't think they're not going to be. I would be shocked if they were into that position. Yeah. Even though we'll get to this right now, even though I do think the American League is pretty wide open because the Astros continue to fall off. Seattle just refuses to ever financially commit, even though this would be the time to because your entire rotation is pretty young and cheap. The Central is still the Central. It's a lot of poor teams or teams that don't really want to spend the capital. The Tigers are trying now, and they went on a nice run last year. So, I think they can make some noise. But, to me, the American League is just so wide open right now. To anyone who wants to commit should be in a position to win it. Because the Yankees, I don't think the Yankees are going to be as good as last year. The Sox have improved, but by no means are they a juggernaut in any way. And Baltimore's lose. I don't know what Baltimore's doing. I don't understand it.
I think they probably hoping
just cheap ownership, I guess.
Well, the ownership just changed. So
you think you want to win?
Maybe. I wonder if they're hoping that the young talent that they have so much of will take another step.
Yeah, but they don't have a ton of pitching talent. It's all position players.
Well,
spend some money.
Bautista should be back this year.
That's true. That's just a closer, though.
You have the ninth. Mm-hmm. You shorten the game to 8 innings, assuming he's back in, vintage. I know we've come a long way with these surgeries, but it's never a sure thing.
No.
But I also think that the Orioles, because a lot of the problem these past 2 years in these 2 playoff runs, if you can even call them that for Baltimore, is their immaturity and lack of what's the word?
I would say a lack of offensive consistency.
Well, it's also
they're a one-trick pony offensively.
They haven't been there, done that yet.
That's who.
And I think that they've clearly been big brothered and bullied when they get to the playoffs because they're just we're not cut out for this yet.
I mean, I'll give them a pass last year though because it kind of felt more like they kind of just physically fell apart. Everyone kind of just got hurt.
I guess
it was just bad timing.
But I mean, they should be a year older. It didn't. They lost Corbin Burns, but I don't think the losses were so much that oh man, you'll compete.
Oh, I know. And then I'm not saying they're going to stink.
And then if you get there and you actually take a step maturity wise and get some more poise, maybe you'll actually win a game in the playoffs this time.
But the problem is that yes, they lost Burns, but most of their pitching is coming off injury. So I mean, if they don't. If it takes them a while to get their feet back,
perhaps
they're going to fall well behind. I am not hyped on this team at all. I think right now their Vegas win total is 88.5. If I bet it at all, I'm going to bet the under.
I mean, fall off to who though? There's a lot of wild card positions and.
Oh no, they can still make the wild card, but also the division got better. In my opinion. Now, the Yankees probably won't be as good as they were last year, but the Sox got significantly better. I think the Rays will at least be better than they were last year. I don't know if...
The division got marginally better, but the division was overrated last year.
Oh, for sure. But, I mean, the American League in general is just not that good. And yet, even with that, I find myself just not really believing in this team right now.
Other than the Dodgers.
I mean, so many guys coming off injury.
That good.
I think Kramer got hurt. Charlie Morton's still here. Come on, bro. He's how old is he now? Is he 40 yet?
Yeah.
Trevor Rogers was awful when they traded for
41?
him. Yeah. Wells is coming off injury. Eflin is whatever. Bradish is coming off injury. Just so many pitching questions. I think that pitching staff could be really bad. Really, really bad.
I think so could ours.
At least we have someone we can insert in.
I guess.
We got about 7 starters.
Right. We got that Cutter Crawford card in our back pocket.
Listen, I don't even know where the 5th starter is right now for Baltimore.
They got there's probably a kid that they're looking at.
Well, that organization never does a good job of developing pitching. But yeah, I don't. Is anyone feel that good to you in the American League, though? Because what the hell has Houston done? Nothing. Besides lose people.
I mean, it's. Oh yeah, they traded Tucker too.
Yeah,
the Tucker trade.
Tucker's gone. They haven't really added anything in the pitching staff. Bregman's gone.
That's fine.
I just don't think they're that good.
You know what sucks? I'm trying to go through these teams here, but they're in their spring training
Yeah.
list.
Yes.
So like it's just a mix.
No, I know.
Like
I don't think the Yankees got better, really.
It's the Guardians' time.
No, it's not. It should be.
Tristan McKenzie will be healthy this year.
But listen, as much as I want to make jokes, if they can stay healthy enough, maybe it is. Because the American League is not very good. If you could tell me right now the Tigers win the American League and are in the World Series, the Guardians win the American League and are in the World Series. I wouldn't be shocked.
Who's got the highest payroll? That team.
Of what?
It's in the American League. That team.
The Yankees.
Sorry, that team.
No. I feel like everything went too well.
That's kind of how it goes.
I feel like everything went too well for them last year. But Soto's gone. Soto is gone. Do you think Giancarlo does this again? Because I don't.
I don't know.
It's been the one outlier season of his past 4 or 5 years now. Now, the wild card is Jason Dominguez because he is highly regarded. And if Dominguez just rolls in and he's ready to go right away, he's a Rookie of the Year candidate. All right, they're probably the best team in the American League again.
The Yankees they made some moves.
They did.
They got Goldschmidt now.
They did
instead of
Rizzo,
and
Rizzo was awful.
Bellinger. I think Yankee Stadium will work well for him
if he can stay healthy.
I guess that's a question. That's a question for everybody.
What's the pitching?
Max Fried.
That's true. I forgot about Fried.
Yeah, he looks silly without facial hair, but
I thought they overpaid him.
Maybe.
He's really good, but
maybe we can count. Oh, also Devin Williams.
Oh yeah,
that's good. That's really good.
I guess they are the best team in the American League.
And they got rid of that second baseman there, Gleyber Torres.
Yeah, I forget where he went.
Who cares?
But I thought Garrett Cole showed signs of decline last year at times.
A little bit. I kind of think there was. It's part of aging. I'm sure he just can't throw as many innings as he could as a younger man. Mm-hmm. But I chalked it up to he's getting tired.
Mm.
Which again, he'll get tired faster, less innings, or can throw less innings as he ages.
Mm.
And he's in his 30s now. Volpe, maybe he takes. He's good.
Mm.
And DJ LeMahieu's still on this team.
Somehow,
yeah.
He's just unmovable.
Yeah,
that's really what that one comes down to. But I guess I underestimated what the Yankees had done this offseason. They are, I guess, probably still head and shoulders the best team in the American League. But if Max Fried went down and if Bellinger went down, which both guys have lengthy injury history, they're in trouble.
They could be.
I think so.
I don't think they should fear us all that much as the Red Sox.
Mm.
We don't have the firepower.
I'm trying to think right now. So I guess if I was going to predict how these divisions pan out, it would probably be Yankees, Tigers. I'm going to go Mariners. I'm finally going to do it.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm finally I don't want to play with you anymore.
I don't either, but the Astros have now lost. Tucker hit 40 bombs last year. Bregman hit 26. The offensive production that they have just lost is insane. And it's not like they've remedied it. It's not even like they really upgraded the pitching staff. It almost feels like they've just punted. We'll just kind of just drag this core now as long as it can go before the wheels fall off, but we're not going to add anything. Which I don't necessarily think is necessarily the wrong move, but I just can't get behind it. As much as Seattle pisses me off, Houston just doesn't add anything.
Gleyber Torres went to the Tigers.
Oh, yes, that's right.
But you think the Tigers are going to be better than the Guardians?
I do. I thought the Guardians' offense last year was a bit of a mirage. I kind of thought a lot of guys had a one-year wonder thing.
Maybe, but
I know the starting rotation's really good, but I looked at their lineup day in and day out, and I was like, how the hell do you guys score this many runs? I just don't buy it. But,
maybe Stephen Vogt just is a good coach.
Maybe.
He's catcher.
And again,
I think catchers.
But the other thing is too is if they're going neck and neck, I just don't trust the Guardians to make a move at the deadline to care. The Tigers will.
But do you trust this Tigers team?
I trust them in a terrible division where the best team just doesn't ever want to make a financial commitment to winning. That's the synopsis.
Because I'm staring at this roster here for the Tigers, and I'm like, maybe.
But some of the names that maybe that people don't know at least are like high end prospects. The Guardians guys who contributed a lot last year were not really highly regarded individuals.
I just found out Jack Flaherty's only 10 days older than me. Wow.
But so I'm guessing you're going Guardians over them, but
probably today, yes.
Okay.
Because I picked the Tigers a couple years ago.
But I guess the AL's not that wide open. I guess it's the Yankees. It's the Yankees to lose, it seems still. I forgot that they had added just that much in the offseason.
They're still coached by
Aaron Boone.
A buffoon, and although Cash is weird.
I know.
As a GM, because like times like this offseason, I'm like, he's still got something to give. And then like next year, he'll be like, wow, this guy's washed. Mm-hmm. And then next year, he'll be like, wow, look at him go again. Mm. Like, I don't know. Very inconsistent.
I guess it's still the Yankees to lose. All right. With that, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk some big name quarterbacks who could be on the move. One of them already clearly is on the move, unless he retires, and Aaron. And then we'll talk some Stafford and some other football in Canada and the U.S. So stick with us, guys. And we are back at Slo Ur Roll. Moving on to some football talk. Aaron Rodgers has been, I don't know if he's officially been cut. I don't know how exactly the rules work. Is that?
He basically has been.
Listen, he's been told that he will be cut. He was told that the Jets are going in a different direction. Whether it's officially he's been cut yet or there's like a certain date where you finally make the cut, I forget, in the NFL.
It's not like the NFL really cares.
The NFL's weird.
They collude or whatever, yeah.
Well, the NFL,
all the time.
No, I know, but the NFL's like, well, it has to everything happens on the same date. Whereas baseball is like, you just have to get it done by this date.
Yeah.
But the NFL's different. But anyway, the point is, for all intents and purposes, he's been cut. He's a free agent. And I have been a known Aaron Rodgers critic. And I was selling my stock on them on the Jets. I said no matter what they should achieve, whatever the Vegas total is, bet the under, because they will underachieve as a franchise. But I think Aaron still has something left to give. He played pretty well the last, 7 to 8 games. He was coming back from an Achilles tear. It is the Jets. And he doesn't have the same power and leverage that he will have that he had going to the Jets when he goes to a new team now, if he decides to keep playing. And in a draft that is this awful for quarterback, it is terrible. There's no high-end prospect in this. They're all B guys at best. I think there's a lot of reason to go for Aaron. If you have a roster that you think that can compete and you need a bridge for a couple of years, I think Aaron Rodgers is your guy. And even though there's a lot of nonsense that comes with him, the fact that it ended as horribly as it just did in New York, and he's kind of getting laughed at. You had a great organization, the Packers, bail on you when they're better without you, and this was a disaster in New York, so bad that they just said, go away. We don't even have a concession plan. We don't have another option. We just don't want to deal with this anymore. He's not going to have that same power in the building. He will concede to your organization probably if he's going to play somewhere. And like I said, he played pretty well at the end of the year. I think he still has a lot left to give. I think he has a reason to keep playing because I think his brand took a major, major hit now this last year with everything that went on in both organizations, the one he left and the one that he was at. I think it'd be better for him to rehab his career because it'd be better for him when his career ends. I think he would make a lot of sense for the Colts, whose GM and coach are on the hot seat, even though we think they're pretty good. And their quarterback is a mess. It kind of seems unfixable. But the roster is decent, and the division is pretty up for grabs. The Raiders don't have a high enough pick to pick a quarterback. I think he could make some sense. Now, I don't know if Tom, that would be weird. I understand that. Hell, the Vikings, if they can't come to terms with Sam Darnold, I know they're worried about J.J. McCarthy's weight right now, though. He has not been able to put weight back on since his second knee surgery he got. He had to get 2. So I think he would make some sense. If the Rams have to move Stafford, that would make some sense because Aaron would be significantly cheaper than Matthew and gives them time on a roster that is still good enough to compete. Clearly, they won the division last year. I just think there's a lot of options out there for Aaron should he want to play, and I think there's a lot of places that he could rehab his image and career a little bit. You know, he's not a top 10 quarterback anymore. The way he played at the end of the year, I think he's at least in the 15 range. Now he's probably 15th or 14th, but in a draft that really has no great options and some guys and some coaches that I feel like are on the hot seat, even though we feel like they've done a good job. I think he makes a sense for a lot of places. Particularly, like I said, I think the Colts makes the most sense. So I think Rodgers should keep playing. I think it'd be better for him to keep playing, and I do think he still has something left to give. And I'm the biggest Aaron hater in the world usually.
I just wonder if, because I don't actually think he's 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers is going to change. Come on.
I didn't say he's going to change. Like, just the circumstances will change. Like, at the end of the day, whether he wants it or not, he's not going to be able to swing the same power that he did with the Jets. And you know what? It was a bit like worst case scenario. Everybody has their negative tendencies, but you can be in one place and have it not be as big of a problem, and then you can be in another place where those things, whatever's going on in that building, or maybe it's a relationship or whatever, they feed into your negative qualities more. And like the Jets totally did. They were like, please, God, save us. We will give you the franchise, which Aaron already has a massive ego and thinks he's smarter than everybody else all the time. So it all just sort of fed into all the negative qualities of him. Go get me Nathaniel Hackett. Bring in Randall Cobb, who's over the hill. I want Saleh fired.
I don't think Aaron can change.
Okay.
And even if he fronts, like, I'm a change man. I learned from that. I think the second, if a team does sign him, I think the second anything happens that Aaron doesn't like, he'd be like, well, you need to get Devontae Adams. Mm-hmm. Or I'm not even going to show up anymore.
I don't think he'd ever go that scorched earth.
There's always a who will deal with that in terms of sports, particularly the NFL. But realistically, who would actually do that? Like, I don't think Tom would allow it in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
I don't think Tom would allow him to come there.
Well, listen, that's the only reason why I don't think Vegas makes a ton of sense. Even though everything else makes me think it would make sense.
I don't know why Indy would put up with that. Jim Irsay, although he's somewhere right now.
Oh, I forgot about the best one. The Steelers.
Him and Tomlin. That'd be terrible. That'd be horrific.
It'd be fun to watch.
Also, I bet the Rooney family does not like him at all.
Okay. Maybe not.
There's many reasons why I think the Rooney family would hate a guy like Aaron Rodgers. But like, again, there's always a franchise desperate enough to deal with people like Aaron, especially because I've seen them deal with worse people than Aaron. Generally not at the quarterback position, though. And he's, again, 40. He's certainly not a long-term solution to anybody. I know some people like these bridge quarterbacks. But, like, there's so few franchises that I think would even be in that situation. And none of them, I think, are really none I think should sell their soul to do it, and I don't think any of them would.
I mean, you're not selling your soul. He'll be cheap.
This is Aaron Rodgers.
He'll be cheap. It's 1 year.
You're selling your soul.
Okay.
He's not going to be that cheap.
I think Aaron knows that he needs to do some
I think Aaron
brand rehabilitation.
Listen, I thought he knew that a couple years ago, and yet here we are today having the same conversation. He's 40. This is who he is.
I know this is who he is personality-wise, but you can fake it for a year or half a year when you know Self-preservation is a real thing. I think he knows.
Not for narcissists.
I think he knows that he needs some brand rehabilitation.
Again,
I'm gonna throw a wild
I think
one.
he knew that years ago.
I just looked at looked at the list. I think the Saints would make some sense as well.
Maybe
They'd have to dump Derek Carr, but
yeah, he'll cry about that. Derek Carr.
The Saints won't. Let me give you a hot take.
Why would Kellen Moore put up with that?
Let me give you a hot take though. Let me give you a wild one.
Please do. It's very cold out.
What about the Cardinals?
I was going to say that as a joke.
I'm not joking, because you could get a lot for Kyler, but this is a bad draft. So I would trade Kyler with the understanding to a team where I'm like, I want your first round pick next year, not this year. This year, give me like a third.
I don't know if you can talk someone in that.
A third or a second. Oh, come on, Kyler. Oh, there are some teams who would want Kyler. I bet the Steelers would answer that phone call in a heartbeat. A heartbeat.
All right, maybe that's the one.
And right now, I think Kyler is at his peak value. I don't think it's going to get much better because we still look at him and watch him and go, oh, man, the talent is still so good. Now, I think he's the worst kind of player. Where he's,
Kyler?
Yes, because he's talented enough to make you not want to move off him and always be like, well, it'll work out. But he's so inconsistent that it never does. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think that'd be an interesting one. You max out the value that you can get for Kyler now.
And then what's your...
You bring Aaron in for 1 year so you're not a pitiful mess. And then you look for the next option the following year.
Okay, but if it's the Steelers, let's say the Steelers do that, oh, we'll give you next year's first round pick. Mm-hmm. You're not going to be high in that draft.
Well, no, but you would use picks to move up.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's a lot of moving parts
It is, but there's always but I know there's going to be multiple quarterbacks in the next draft.
Especially
and there's always a team at the top who for whatever reason isn't going to take a quarterback.
From the Cardinals' perspective, that's just too much. That's too risky.
Okay.
Because you have
Hey, I'm not saying I'd do it. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm like, you know what? That's at least an interesting one to think about.
It's too much.
Okay.
Because you are risking a potential franchise quarterback for
A potential franchise
for the possibility that you could maybe get in yourself position to get someone else or may not be better.
Do you really think there's a potential that Kyler's a franchise quarterback at this point?
Yeah, why not?
I think he's tantalizingly close.
He is.
That makes you think he should be.
We put him at 11.
We did. I know, but he's also not a guy that I think is going to age well.
Yeah, because he's injury prone and small.
And small. Like he's a guy that when the athleticism goes, he's too small to just sit in a pocket and be a pocket passer.
But he's still very young.
He is.
And it's
I don't know, man.
With the lackluster standard of quarterback today, he's still on the better half of the quarterback spectrum.
I know he is.
I
think it's hard to win with a guy like that, though, because he's so inconsistent. Like, as a coaching staff, at least when I have Jared Goff, I know what I'm getting week to week. I know what we can do. I know what we can't do. Like, I know what he will play like for the most part. Kyler, how do I game plan? Is he going to be unbelievable this week, or is he going to be a mess?
But he could be unbelievable.
Because I know, but he also could be brutal, like just awful. And I know Goff was awful in the playoff game, but Kyler is worse at his low more often than like Jared Goff is. Like he'll have 5 games a year where you're like, is this a bottom of the league guy right now? Like, he can be awful.
That's because at one point we were asking, is Jared a bottom 5 guy in this league right now? Mm-hmm. But then he aged. And while Jared Goff came into the league with a higher maturity level than Kyler Murray has ever shown, he could grow.
I know.
He's not 40 like Aaron. There's still there's still character growth potential here.
But I mean, you're bringing Aaron in just to be competitive this year while you buy time to find the next guy.
See, from the Cardinals, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay.
Because who is more talented today?
Well, I think the only reason
Kyler or Aaron?
Kyler.
So you're going to risk a guy who's more talented for a veteran can be just as cancerous.
I know. And listen, here's the biggest reason.
Even worse, actually.
Here's the biggest reason why, at the end of the day, if I was the Cardinals GM, I might not do it. The Niners are taking some steps back. Mm-hmm. The Rams are talking about moving off Stafford simply because they can't really come to terms with money.
Yeah.
So maybe the Cardinals are thinking, well, this actually could be our year to make a move. Which it could be. It could be.
That's that short-term thinking again.
No, not with Aaron, with Kyler. That's why you don't make the move, because you're like,
okay,
this is our best chance with Kyler Murray to win the division.
Sure, yes.
Yeah. That's probably why at the end of the day I don't make this move.
Okay.
But if the Niners and the Rams, I felt like we're still humming, they were still fine, and I could chalk them up that they're going to be just as good as they have been the last couple of years, I think you would think about this a little bit more.
Okay.
What do you think Aaron's going to do? And where do you think he should go, or you just don't think he should go anywhere and he should just call it a career?
I think he wants to play again, but I think he himself is a little afraid that nobody wants him. Mm-hmm. And he has that ego that it's like, well, I can't say I want to be for the risk of if no one picks me, that's embarrassing.
Yes.
So I think he'll play very coy. And then if he gets a call, then I'll be like, oh, I love football. I want to be out there. Mm-hmm. But I think he's going to play very like, I don't know. Like, what do I want? I don't know. I need to go do more ayahuasca and figure it out. But I think he wants to play.
Okay.
I think Aaron still thinks he has a lot to give.
Okay. The next one is Stafford. Well, this has been going on for the last 2 or 3 years, I think, where he has been sort of unhappy with his contract or trying to seek out an extension to it, and the Rams don't want to do it. And it's this weird issue where he's older, so I get why the Rams don't want to, but he continues to play at a high level. Everybody else who's been good at the quarterback position has started to leave the sport. Like I had him ranked 4th. You had him still, as much as you call yourself a Stafford hater and think he's overrated, you had him 6th.
Because everyone sucks.
Okay, but
this league is awful.
But that's not the point. The point is, when it comes to this stuff, your negotiating power is what's around you.
If we saw this Stafford this past year in the height of the Brady, Breeze, Peyton Manning, Eli Manning era, he'd be mid AF.
Maybe. I disagree with you 100%. I think he'd probably be 10th. But that's not the point. The point is that you won the division last year still. The Niners are in a little bit of trouble. They're going to have to figure some stuff this offseason. Like, it's hard to move him. It's hard to really think that we're just not going to have him here next year and just punt on a team that won the division last year. I don't know what they do. It sounds like they might move him actually this year. And this has been talked now for 2 years. So maybe this is. Maybe they're just, and the Rams have a history of getting this stuff right. And if they think that it's the right move and that they can figure it out, they can bring in a bridge. There are guys out there. There's Sam Darnold, talked about Aaron potentially. So I'm not saying to say it's the wrong move as long as they get somebody to keep them competitive this next upcoming season. But it's a sticky situation.
Well, one, I don't know why a team would go after Aaron Rodgers when Stafford, who's younger, less cancerous.
Because he wants a contract extension, and he's also on
have to
terms
trade
for way more money.
You'd have to trade for him, too.
You would.
And Aaron's just out there.
No, I know.
Freely. But I would Stafford hater here would take Stafford over Aaron Rodgers.
No, I know. I would hope so.
For a great many reasons. But, the Rams should trade him ASAP.
Okay.
Now, you don't have to, because he does still have something to give, but it's a ticking time bomb. Because at some point, he's got no value and you can't move him at all.
Yeah.
So I would trade him while he still has something to give and get some of that value for him. Especially because, your team is actually good enough where you could trade Matt Stafford. You could play that Aaron Rodgers game for 1 year. I don't think they would.
I totally think they could do that.
And then draft a quarterback the next year. Mm-hmm. If they have the draft capital or have to or a position or the draft capital to move up. But I think a lot of teams know that, like, well, he's got not a lot of time left, and you're a little hands tied. Like, we're gonna lowball you, that type of stuff. So you don't have to do it today. You could, in theory, run it back with him another year, and maybe actually compete at a high level still. But again, it's not, the cliff is coming, and it's not long before you get nothing from him, and he's just wasted, kind of. Not wasted, but
he's. I mean, listen, you had a lot of injuries this year. You only had one wide receiver, and yet you played the Eagles the best of anyone in the playoffs. You were very close to beating them, which, who knows? If you face the Commanders, you probably beat the Commanders. I think they beat the Commanders. You could have been in the Super Bowl this year. Couple bounces, Who was it? Was it Carter who made that play at the end when Stafford was driving down the field? Like, Carter doesn't make that play. We don't know what happened.
Oh, yeah, it was.
So I wouldn't do this, particularly because I know most of your roster is young and cheap. Now, I'd probably tell Stafford to go kick rocks. You're not getting an extra extension on this. And if you want to retire, I guess, I'd play chicken with that. I do keep hearing that the Giants are a name that keeps coming up. I think that's a complete disaster. I don't think that works. And I love Stafford. And I know they at least have a left tackle. They have a young wide receiver in Malik Neighbors. Like, I don't think they're as far away as their record shows. But you're bringing an older guy. Like, they need some support. Like, Tom did need some support. Tom needed extra support that he didn't, in the middle of his dynasty with the Pats when they were doing it with Jabbar Gaffney's a lot and that kind of stuff. Like, he went to Tampa because he's like,
Good pull.
Jabbar I got Gaffney. A great left tackle. I got multiple weapons. I got a good coaching staff. Like, if Stafford goes to the Giants, you're like, well, they got a left tackle and not much else on the offensive line. You got a head coach and a GM that are on the hot seat. You have a young wide receiver, though talented. Matt's 36. This kid's 22. Like, it might be a weird chemistry, a particularly young roster.
Puka's only in his second year.
He is. He's a bit more mature than Malik.
Okay.
Malik was
an
interesting individual at LSU. There have been far worse.
Okay.
But I would not say that he was a saint by any means.
Okay.
It's a young roster overall. Yeah, I
mean, they both are, though.
I think that has disaster written all over it. You got the desperate head coach and desperate franchise.
Certainly not.
An older quarterback.
That means nothing to the Rams.
What?
That means nothing to the Rams.
What means nothing to the Rams?
If it's going to be...
Oh, no, I know, but I'm saying if I was the Giants, I would... If I was the owner, this would be a time I'd step in and be like, you guys are just playing the self-preservation game here. This has disaster written all over it.
Here's why that might...
I think Stafford should go to the Steelers.
I mean, here's why the Giants one might work for a second.
Okay.
Because, Brian Dable has a good mind.
Yeah.
In theory, like, I watched him. I watched him get Daniel Jones, like, $40 million annually. Like, he can get something out of Matt Stafford, especially with Malik Neighbors. But also, if you can do it where you don't have to give up a lot of draft capital, particularly this year, because they're drafting a quarterback this year. And who cares? It won't work. They're the Giants. Probably like Sanders, though, if it's their perfect world.
Mm-hmm.
And then, now I'm sure Sanders would not like to sit behind and learn from Matt Stafford, but, like, that could work.
Mm-hmm.
Grow the kid. Now, I don't know how Matt Stafford would like that either, but, like, screw him.
Yeah.
It's a business, right?
It is. When you got desperate franchises then going after aging quarterbacks, it usually doesn't work out.
Like
and
Aaron Rodgers
the offensive line is not that good. Now, the left tackle is money. That's good. So, and that's very important. But the rest of it is not that good. And they're going to have to ask him to be Superman a lot, which at 36 years old, I'm not trying to do that. That gets a guy hit more. That gets him injured. Like,
okay.
That's why I think it has disaster written all over it.
So you want a kid to get hit?
I think the Steelers would make a ton of sense.
So you want a kid to get run over again and again and again next year for the Giants?
No, I think that they should draft somebody but have him sit and just throw Jacoby Brissett out there. Just a sacrifice. A sacrificial lamb.
I guess. But you could actually have
Or
a
if
real
I was the
veteran.
Giants, if I ran the Giants, I would say this quarterback class sucks. I don't think any of these kids are very good. I would try to trade down, though there might not even be a lot of takers to try and trade up. We'll talk about that when we talk about the draft. Probably going to have to do that next week with the way this show's gone on. Probably talk about the draft next week. But I would look to trade down, and if I can't, I would just take best player available, and I would look to next season. And be like, I'm going to suck again next year. I understand that. I probably need to fire this front office and this coach anyway. And I don't think it's Dable's fault, but, you lose this much for this long. Sometimes you just got to clean the house. I would then look to draft a quarterback the following year. If I ran the Giants, that's how I'd do it. But I understand from the GM and the coach's perspective, this is jobs preservation. So go trade for Matt Stafford.
And then you can still draft a kid.
You could.
And have him learn from this.
Unless the Rams want your first round pick this year.
But if you're going to do that, Giants, tell the veteran quarterback you're going to do that.
Yeah, don't pull the Falcons.
So you don't Kirk Cousins them. I don't want to play for this franchise.
I don't know.
But also, I
think the Steelers makes the most sense.
Listen,
if I was Pittsburgh, I would be on the phone with the Rams right now.
Every quarterback makes sense with the Steelers. We all know why.
No, I know. Because they have a lot of the pieces there.
We can say every quarterback can fit there.
I know.
Except Russell Wilson.
Well, not every quarterback, because, listen, you can't have a weak arm and play in Pittsburgh.
Okay. Every has the potential to be looked at from them.
But if I was them, I would be super aggressive on this. We have been spinning our wheels now for 5 years. The defense is still good. You still have prime TJ Watt. Go do this now.
Sure, I guess.
You're never going to tank bad enough to draft a kid. It's just not going to happen. You really, honestly, what you have to keep doing is probably drafting a quarterback every year in the third, fourth round and just hope you strike gold eventually. You know what I mean?
I guess.
I hope you hit a Brock Purdy.
I guess.
But in the meantime, go trade for Matt Stafford. He makes total sense. It's a veteran operation, a veteran coach. I'm sure they'd work well together. He's got a big arm in a cold climate. He's played in big games.
And then the Rams can bring in Daniel Jones.
You're in a conference. You're in a division with Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow, so you got to go big at the quarterback position.
Daniel Jones makes more sense to Aaron Rodgers than me, or makes more sense than Aaron Rodgers to me.
For the Rams?
Yeah.
Why? You're not going to win with Daniel.
You're not really going to win with Aaron either.
Yes, you will. You're not going to win a Super Bowl. You probably won't make one, but
you won't, because one, he's going to come in and ruffle feathers.
I think he would respect Sean McVay and listen to Sean. I think they probably speak the same language in a lot of ways.
And Sean can really...
Young, progressive-ish guy.
But Daniel Jones will bow down to Sean McVay and do whatever he says.
Yeah, they're not going to win anything with Daniel. They're going to win 7 games with Daniel Jones.
That's
He's
great.
awful.
So that's fine.
They could win 10 and win the division.
Let's not
with
pretend
Aaron.
like you're winning anything this year anyway.
Well, you could win the division with Aaron.
Okay, that's great. Enjoy your 23rd pick.
I know. You're right. Listen, if I was the Rams, I wouldn't trade Stafford.
I would.
I wouldn't. Because you can still win a Super Bowl, in my opinion, or make a Super Bowl.
Maybe. And
even worst case scenario, they have shown they're smart enough to fix it. Hell, they were in cap hell with no picks for 4 years in a row, and they've figured it out.
They won't be able to get away with Daniel Jones.
No, they'll win 7 games with that.
Dable balled out with Daniel Jones.
In a bad division with a very easy schedule. The Rams will have a first-place schedule.
And their division is what?
But the
49ers, who have taken a step back.
The Rams,
the Cardinals with their inconsistent Kyler Murray.
Yes, but the Rams
and Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks.
But the Rams are going to have a first-place schedule.
Okay.
So I don't know, whatever. Anyway, get your videotape ready.
What's their first-place schedule?
All right, good.
Of Philadelphia. Okay. Tampa Bay. Come on. And Detroit. Who the hell knows what that's actually going to be?
True.
They'll probably take a step back in some form.
They will, but I bet you they still win a lot of games. and make the playoffs.
I hope so.
Now, that's an interesting take.
Minnesota's also another one.
Now that I'm thinking about it, like, you got to wait till the odds come out. But, I might place a little money on the Packers to win that division next year because you're losing both coordinators.
Yeah, and the Vikings.
Like we saw how that went the first year with the Eagles.
The Vikings are a big question mark.
Yeah, I don't trust the Vikings for anything. I mean, I trust their coaching staff, but
yeah,
they're going to have a harder schedule, and I don't even know who's going to be at quarterback.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
All right.
And Sam Darnold is like, come on, the jury's out. He's not
a franchise guy. No, I know. I get you.
Listen,
All right.
he had his fun.
Take it away with some hockey.
It was nice to watch Aaron or Sam Darnold look like he had something, but
He does have something.
he's got, I guess, something.
He's a good bridge. He's a bridge guy. He's a Geno Smith.
We were like, wow, Sam Darnold has something, and then we found out what that something was. It was like,
He's Geno Smith-ish.
I guess that's fine. All right, let's talk hockey. It's all right. So while the NBA was embarrassing themselves again over the weekend, NHL tried something different. They said no one cares about all-star games and all-star festivities anymore. Let's do something else. Let's do an international tournament. And as silly as I thought it was at first, and actually I'll tell you in a second how silly it still is, it's worked out. Hella worked out. Everyone and their mother was talking about United States and Canada playing hockey on Saturday night. And over 10 million people watched that game. They watched hockey on a Saturday night. Yeah. Wild. And that's great. And I'm not going to have that discussion yet of the future of hockey is American. We'll wait for the game tomorrow night at 8 at TD Garden, by the way, to see. But, man, what a spectacle that was. That was one of the best things the NHL has ever stumbled into since I don't even know. Maybe ever. Because, again, no one cares about all-star games. That includes the players. No one tries in them. But you know where people really do care? They care about their country. And although the NHL tries their damnedest to stay out of politics, what a time to have an international tournament in where the United States and Canada play each other on the world stage. And it led to some real drama that, again, allowed the NHL to stumble into a gold mine of potential future money here. I mean, from the drop, literally the drop of the puck, we had a Matthew Tkachuk, Brendan Hagel fight. Was fantastic. Absolute great knuckles thrown. We then immediately followed it up with Matthew's brother, Brady Tkachuk, hilariously fighting Matthew's line mate from Florida, Sam Bennett. And then a couple seconds later, we got the final fight of Colton Parayko of Canada and JT Miller of the United States. That fight actually kind of went Canada's way, but still another great just fight to watch. Oh, my goodness. We then got to see, I mean, actually, from the game, it was a tremendous showcase from the Americans. They absolutely just choked the juggernaut Canadian offense. McDavid, although he got the first goal, was a ghost after that. His biggest highlight after the goal was getting plastered by Charlie McAvoy. By the way, Bruins fans, we definitely lost Charlie McAvoy for the season for this. Was it worth it?
We weren't going anywhere anyway.
Yeah, we weren't going anywhere, so it's fine. But we got to see Charlie McAvoy play his best game in like 3 years. It was just a perfect scenario for the NHL. Like, unbelievable. You said no more All-Star. I mean, I don't know what if it would be no more All-Star game ever. Because, like, what do you do? What do you do now? Are you going to do this again next year? 4 nations face off. So if you're not Canadian, if you're not a top Canadian player, top American player, Swedish or Finnish, you just get a vacation this time every year? Yeah. No All-Star game for you? Oh.
Yeah, I think so.
Like, I get why they didn't do Russia, because Russia would make actually more sense. They're better than Finland and Sweden. But we know why they didn't pick Russia. Are you going to change it every year? Oh, we got Czechs this year. Oh, Latvians this year. Like, you don't have enough Latvians in the league to do that. You don't. So, like, you have some of the best players are just going to sit every year? That doesn't make any sense.
I know.
You're not going to display David Pastrnak for the world on the world stage for everybody every year. He just gets a vacation every year. I don't think that's very fair. Like,
Probably
so
not.
the NHL put themselves in an odd situation. Well, no one watches the All-Star game. Let's try something new. And we all love it. And now they're kind of stuck with it. And it's like, oh.
Maybe you do it every
What do
other
all the
year.
Russians do? Maybe. You can maybe get away with it with changing out the nations. And, like, maybe you instead of 4 nations, you do 3 nations and then a third team of, like, just all-star players that are, like, from around the world. Possibly. But then again, one of the reasons it was so watched is because all of Canada was watching this and a large portion of the United States was watching this.
Yeah.
What do you do?
But
good for
listen,
NHL short term.
Listen, short term and at least long term, you have options.
Yes.
You have actual options.
Sure.
The
Yes.
NBA doesn't have options.
Yes.
Nobody cares.
I could
You
give
might
the
as well
NBA options.
just cancel the All-Star game. Cancel it all.
I hope they don't.
Nobody watches. And I thought it was hilarious. Silver's like, we're going to do one-on-one games next year with $1 million incentive. It's like,
Fool.
they don't care. $1 million is not enough to make some of these NBA players come and actually try.
Yeah.
Like, they're making way more money than that.
I don't know when.
Just the NBA should do what the NFL did and just punt on it. It's over. It's over. The NFL acknowledged it's over. We're going to play flag football.
I mean, the NFL is at least still trying things. And
And you know what I thought was cool that the NFL did? For their skills competition, they had like a quarterback one where they were throwing.
Yeah.
And they had some media guys do it. Not former players, but like Dan Orlovsky participated.
All right.
He was actually pretty damn good.
well.
For a guy who hasn't played football in a long time. He did pretty
I
well.
bet they all still keep themselves in pretty good shape.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
But I thought that was at least
I
interesting.
mean, we know Tom still likes to throw the football on camera any chance he gets.
Yes,
Um,
that is true. But he's only 1 year removed from the league.
Yes.
Um,
I bet he's still older than some of those media quarterbacks, though.
he probably is. But yeah, I mean, you're right. Maybe they backed themselves into a corner because maybe people are going to be wanting it next year, but the NHL doesn't want to and the teams don't want it. But at least they have options.
Especially since, like, Charlie McAvoy's season potentially is over here. Like, he's not one of the huge stars in the league, but he's a star in the league. Like, them playing as hard as they're playing, and man, they're playing hard for these games. Like, you will lose some of these people.
Oh,
And
yeah.
these
People
are
are dying.
These are stars, all of them. Like, this is, if the Bruins were actually a little bit more, to be honest, this could be the killing blow to the Bruins season. Because without Charlie, do you actually have a chance to make a run at the playoffs?
Probably not. Probably not. But I don't think their season was going anywhere anyway.
I don't. But these are the repercussions of
They probably
the
aren't-
All-Star game.
They probably aren't going to do this next year. They'll probably have to figure something out and do something different. But
Actually,
at least pumped life
next
into
year-
their All-Star game, and it killed their competition.
Next year's the Olympics.
Oh, okay.
So they're going to do that instead.
Okay.
So they have 2 years to think about this.
Good. So there you go. You got extra time. You're going to have 2 years of dunking on the NBA. And
Actually-
like doubling your views and profit margin for this, however long it was. What was it, a couple of days, a week? I don't know how long.
About a week.
Okay.
And actually, I will
You
say...
own this week. There was nothing
Yeah.
else going on
Yeah.
except the NBA one, which no one watches anymore.
Yeah.
You
It's
basically now
actually-
owned the viewership for a week. We're not in conference tournaments or March Madness yet for college basketball. Football is over.
Did you change the Darwin?
Yeah, I'm probably going to do the NBA All-Star game.
Oh.
Yeah. Why, do you want to do the...
No. I was just wondering should I say what I'm about to say or should I wait a couple minutes?
Yeah, you should wait a couple of minutes.
Okay.
But you know what? It'll transition us right into it. So
Yeah.
you know what? You started.
Okay.
So Darwin Award, let's go.
It is. Without the drum roll even. The NBA All-Star Weekend festivities.
Yes.
It's been bad for a couple years, and I know, like, the leagues across the spectrum, except baseball, because baseball is just king like that. And our All-Star game has just gotten respect for so long, and everyone watches that. What else are you going to watch? But the NBA they're really trying. They need to make a buck anywhere. And, obviously it was made even better by the fact that it coincided with the NHL striking gold with their attempts at changing their All-Star festivities. It was made even better. Did you see the highlights of when they were doing their skills competition and Victor Wembanyama and Chris, what are on the Spurs? I don't know. Chris whatever. when they hit that huge shot down 40. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Chris something. Can't remember his last name. Anyway, they tried to cheat at the skills competition, and when they had to do I don't know, what are they called? You got to do all these things.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, when you get to the shot portion,
Yeah.
because it takes time to actually, hit a good shot, they just threw the ball. They just chucked the ball.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they were doing that, it just made it so much better. It was so embarrassing for the NBA all weekend. LeBron last second said, you know what? I'm hurt. I'm not playing the All-Star game. I'm just going to sit it out. I don't even want to play. No one cares.
No.
And the players are just making it worse. It comes out every year that the NBA sits down the players and says, please try effort in any form for this All-Star game. And the only one that actually listens is Jason Tatum.
Yeah.
Because he's a weirdo and a goofball. But it was great. Every highlight I saw from the NBA All-Star weekend, and ESPN was throwing a million of them out there, was just sad and pathetic. And the only people that enjoy the All-Star weekend are the celebrities that play the celebrity basketball game.
Yeah.
And nobody watches that.
Yeah, which is funny that no one watches that, but they'll watch the softball one for baseball.
Yeah,
I know.
They do.
I know.
Well, one, it's aired right after the home run derby.
Mm-hmm.
So you get the home run derby. People still getting hyped from the All-Star festivities. Two, there's always former players and every team is represented in the
Yes.
whatever softball game. But again, it was made even better. I mean, the players not caring, no one watching, and then the NHL
just dunking on them. Just dunked on them
Quite
for an entire week.
Pun intended, dunking on them.
They dunked on them.
It was great.
It was hilarious. And the NBA needs to I think the NBA at this point should just do what the NHL did. I mean, the NFL did. And just realize, it's over.
I could save it.
Stop it. Stop trying so hard.
I could 100% get people.
The only thing that I would pay to go, not watch, but the only thing I'll watch is if you made the WNBA All-Stars play the NBA All-Stars and maybe spot the WNBA players 80 points. Is that what you were going to say?
That was my idea. That's the idea.
Oh, okay.
And you do it. Here's what you do. All right, now I have to say it.
Yeah.
The NHL, and it worked at first, and the NBA tried it, but again, nobody cared. The NHL used to do this thing with the All-Stars. I mean, originally they did East versus West, ALL, ALNL. And eventually, people stopped just caring. So they tried to, pump it up a bit. They just mixed them all up. Mm-hmm. You had captains, and you picked your team. I'm picking this player. I'm drafting that player. And, part of the festivities was the draft and watching a bunch of drunk NHL players joke around and pick each other on teams. Mm-hmm. The NBA should do that, which they tried to do that once. Mm-hmm. But again, nobody watched. You do that with NBA and WNBA.
Okay. So you have both on the same team?
Yep. And you pick.
I think that'd be a good idea.
You have to pick boy, girl, boy, girl.
Okay.
And then those are your teams. And that's how you play the NBA All-Star game.
That would not be a bad idea either.
No, and it's not
that would also have a way more long-term shelf life than what I just said, because that would only bring viewers for 1 year, and then you'd see the NBA players probably, win pretty easily, and everyone would laugh, and then they wouldn't watch it again a second time.
The teams are mixed of men and women, and it's still All-Stars, so the men are not going to go so hard that they'll embarrass the women, that they'll hurt the women.
Yeah, but there's also women on both sides. They're just going to play. They'll play man defense, and the women will guard the women on the other team.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
and then you maybe even try give them a little space, just so they can hit those threes and look at Caden Clark hitting threes and stuff on Luka Doncic or something. Who cares? But that would be exciting. That would be even.
They'd probably make a rule too, where because obviously you're subbing people in and out because everyone needs to play.
Yeah.
And you need to represent. They probably make a rule where there can only be one big man on the floor for each team, and it has to be boy, girl.
Sure, yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah.
Certain amount of men and women on the floor at each time. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that would be weird. I mean, I think it'd be good. I think people would watch it. The only problem is would it politically then piss the world off? And
because woke.
Yeah, because they'd be like, why do you have to make special rules for because anyone with a...
I thought you meant people would be you're forcing the women on us.
No. I think more the WNBA players would... And their
would be like,
delusion,
well,
their delusion would.
Yeah,
would be
why
like,
aren't you?
What do you have to make special rules for?
Okay.
We can just
Maybe.
do. I'm like, no, you can't.
Maybe.
But hell, maybe if they complained, I'd be like, you know what? 1 year, let's do no special rules.
Yeah, okay.
I think they get a lot of views. All right. That has been it for Slow Your Roll this week. Congratulations to the NBA, particularly the NBA All-Star Week for this week's Darwin Award winner. That has been it for us, and have a great rest of your day, ladies and gentlemen.